The aging brain doesn't have to age as much as you think. Before I help you understand that, I want to talk about some simple little facts about our brains. Now, our brains lose brain cells we call neurons every single day, millions every single day. Now, we lose them simply by getting out of bed in the morning, working, driving the car, me talking to you right now, I'm losing brain cells. And those brain cells, we never get back. Brain cells do not regenerate, do not come back. You don't make more of them. You have what you have when you're born, and that's what you will have for the rest of your life, besides those that are being lost. So add to that our stressful society that we're living in. Add lack of proper sleep. Add improper diets. Add stress. Add knocks on the noggin. Those types of things actually cause an increase in neuron death or brain cell loss. So what are the consequences of our cells being lost? I mean, by the time we are my age, mid-age, we've lost almost half the amount of brain cells that we had when we were born. Now, what are the consequences of losing more? Well, Alzheimer's, dementia, Parkinson's are the consequences of losing brain cells. Now, if we lose millions of brain cells every day, what do you think could happen? Why aren't we all dying of Alzheimer's or dementia or Parkinson's? Why aren't all our brains failing by the time we're middle-aged? Well, there's a really good reason why, and I'm going to tell you a little story about a famous intelligent man called Albert Einstein. When Albert Einstein died, scientists wanted to look at his brain. In other words, they took his brain out of his head when he was dead, and they wanted to see why his brain, or why he was so smart, basically, and was there anything different about his brain. Well, they looked at it, and they said, geez, this looks like any other brain that we've looked at before. What could possibly be making him so smart? Well, they looked at it more closely, and he looked at under a microscope, and he discovered that Einstein had an unbelievable amount of brain connections called synapses. Synapses are how your brain cells communicate with each other. And they're sort of like, let's say this is a brain cell, my bulk of my hand, and then the synapses are these little projections that come out of the brain cell that attach to other brain cells to communicate. Einstein had many, many, many millions and millions of these, more than the average individual. Okay? So what they have discovered through research is that as we lose brain cells, it's okay, because as long as we increase the connections of brain cells, the better. Now, what does that mean, increasing connections? Is it like the wires in a household where they have more wires and you can do more things? Well, basically that's kind of it. So for instance, if you learn how to pitch a baseball or ride a bike, so to speak, that actually will increase connections between your neurons or brain cells in your brain to make you able to ride that bike more efficiently over time. So the more connections you have, the smarter you are. So what does that mean for us as we age and we lose brain cells? We can increase our connections. So it's the connections that are the issue. And when we have Alzheimer's, dementia, or Parkinson's, that means that our connections are not as good, or there's something interfering with our connections, and indeed, that is exactly what happens in those types of diseases, is that we have something called protein aggregate problems. In other words, our brains are getting interfered, the connections are getting interfered with, so that they don't help us respond or help us move or make us lose our memory. And make us die, basically. So how do we increase those connections? I want you to look next week at the next video, and I'll explain how you can increase those connections in your brain and what are the good things to do for your children to help them improve their brain over time and to ensure that maybe we don't have to suffer from Alzheimer's or dementia or Parkinson's. Maybe we don't have to. Remember, to live longer, eat better, and be active better.